I recently got together with a friend. Yes, hooray. Really appreciating the celebrations of being able to get together with some people. It has been a long time. We met at the Silver Bean Cafe here in Peterborough. The Silver Bean has a large outdoor patio overlooking the Otonabee River. As we sat there chatting, we felt the warm sun and the cool breeze. Sunlight glittered off of the river as the gentle current ran downstream. Families occasionally passed by to buy ice cream cones to eat on the dock. It was idyllic. And so my friend and I chatted there on the patio. We caught up on the emotional ride of the pandemic. We talked about our coping mechanisms. We talked about our favorite new pandemic recipes. We talked about what shows we had binge watched. And we just chatted, and time passed like a gently flowing river. And then the topic of conversation came around to vaccines. I had had my first vaccine and was almost due for my second. My friend, on the other hand, was not going to get vaccinated. When my friend explained why he was not going to get vaccinated, he pointed to sources making the case for that. I promised to check out his sources, and I made the case for vaccines. So we were two people sipping lemonade, overlooking the Otonabee River, having a very important debate about something that affects us all. We were prioritizing the search for truth. We were not hiding our disagreement under the rug. And we weren't just trying to shout each other down either. We did not reach an agreement that afternoon, but we did agree that the conversation would continue after I researched his point of view. So we cared about the truth. If we had had that conversation 2 days ago, it would have gone very differently. 2 days ago, I was feeling the effects of my second dose. 2 days ago, I was sitting at the dinner table, head in hand, eyes mostly closed, just trying to stomach as much dinner as I could before crawling into bed. If at that moment my friend had called me enthusiastic to talk about vaccines, I imagine that the conversation would have gone something like this. So him, did you research ivermectin? Me, I did, but I'm just not up for talking about it now. I'm feeling the effects of my second dose. Him, you don't want to talk about it. Don't you care about the truth? And then he would have gone on for a 25-minute rant about vaccines while I just sat there with my head in my hand. And I'm just kidding, my friend would not have gone on that rant, but that's how people behave on social media all of the time. During a terrible time when people are upset and hurt, they want to have a debate. When children's graves are detected, people highly impacted by it express their grief and cry out for justice. And some people less impacted by it want to start a debate about exactly how bad residential schools were. So someone says, please don't debate me when I'm grieving. The other person says, don't you care about the truth? Don't you care about me? At this point, the person focused on the search for truth could double down. Truth is important. The truth will set us free. Injustice will be lessened. Your pain will be lessened if we just have this debate. So bring me the facts, bring me the studies. Let me poke holes in your point of view so that you can improve your point of view. The hurt person says, stop poking me. How tempting it can be to go into truth-seeking mode. Because as a liberal religion, we are wired to use truth to solve problems. We have a long history of using truth to stand up to tyranny. When a monarch can't justify their use of power, hopefully their power lessens. Sometimes it does. Liberal religion uses truth to wash aside superstition. Scientific progress swept aside centuries of unfounded beliefs. The search for truth can open your eyes to something broader than the world you grew up in. The way you knew isn't the only way. So yes, the search for truth is valuable. The search for truth is our sacrament. Simply put, being right is better than being wrong. It is ingrained in us, and it can be so hard to put aside the search for truth. It feels so good to speak the truth, to be generous with your thoughtful opinion. The ecstasy of righteous indignation when you've done your homework, you have an opinion, and you express it with your full voice. The thrill of posting your opinion on Facebook for the world to see. The self-esteem of when you speak the truth as you see it, then you drop the mic and walk away. Oh, it can feel so good. Our brains can fill with dopamine and serotonin and feel so good when we have something to say. So we can get trapped by the urge to be right. Last month, weightlifter Laurel Hubbard became the first openly transgender athlete selected to compete in the Olympics. Right away, a crowd of people jumped onto the search for truth, asking all sorts of questions about what the rules should be for transgender weightlifters. The question, for example, is it enough to limit testosterone levels for a year before competing? Does that make it fair? Did the International Olympic Committee get the rules right? A transgender friend of mine, Rachel Clark, was interviewed about this. The reporter asked her, are transgender people getting pushback because of the weightlifter Laurel Hubbard? Rachel said she just has to breathe to get pushback. And when I read that, I stopped researching Olympic regulations for transgender athletes. Yes, I was one of those who dove into the research. I wanted to be right. When I was reminded how much pushback Rachel gets just for going about her day, I realized that I don't need to prioritize being right in the Olympic debate. I realized that I needed to prioritize being right with my relationship with my friend. So I moved from my head into my heart. Consider how often the roles are reversed. How often is the person with less social power who has to choose between being right and being in relationship? In a world where hockey is much loved, imagine that you get together with friends and family to watch the hockey game, but to you, hockey is just a game. There, I said it. For you, hockey is just a game, but for your friends and family, hockey is a religion. There is no choice. We're watching the game, so you join in. You keep your feelings to yourself. You try to find joy in the athleticism, or at least the company. You join in the cheering. You choose relationship over being right. That is so common for people with less social power, just choosing to join in. If you are someone who tends to have social power, someone who likes hockey, someone who sees themselves represented in government, maybe if you're someone who did well in school, consider how often your neighbor has to choose to fit in over expressing their opinion. Your less privileged neighbor chooses to be in relationship with you over being right. Not all of the time, but some of the time this comes up. So return the favor. And it can be hard. I spend so much time studying so that I can understand the world and make it better. Maybe if I get things right, I can solve the culture wars. I spend so much time forming an opinion. But sometimes that is not what is called for. The social activist Ella Baker said that if you want to change the world, the first step is to open your front door and introduce yourself to someone. I wonder if you know Ella Baker. The song Ella's Song by Sweet Honey in the Rock is named after her. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. Yeah, that is, they took that line from an Ella Baker quote. She was good with words. She was good with expressing the truth as she saw it, but she often prioritized relationship. She would host large gatherings of activists, and her practice was that people could talk for as long as they wanted. It was important that people be heard. If someone spoke for 10 minutes and only 30 seconds of it was valuable, cherish those 30 seconds while honoring the person for the full 10 minutes. Choose relationship. Ella Baker was a remarkable speaker and could have held the group's attention herself, but she didn't prioritize being right. She prioritized relationship. And this is actually baked into our Sunday services. We do joys and sorrows before we do the sermon. We tend to each other's hearts before we explore something new. We engage in relationship before we search for truth. So here is a test. Here are 2 questions to ask yourself when you're about to tell your opinion to somebody. Number 1, do I know what is in their heart? Do I know what's in my friend Rachel's heart before I speak up about the Olympic situation? Do I know what is in their heart? Can I express their point of view in a way that they would agree with? If you don't know what is in their heart, your opinion likely won't be received. And if you don't demonstrate that their opinion matters to you, why should they value yours? And so I sit on the patio over the Otonabee River, engaging in listening with my friend who isn't into vaccines. Before sharing your opinion, discover who the person is who is right in front of you. UU Reverend Laurelyn Bellamy asks, dare we look into one another's eyes and discover they're a friend? Now don't pry, don't force intimacy. Let the person open up if they want to. It's not, I will create intimacy so that I can provide my opinion. It's, I will welcome intimacy because you matter to me. Let them know through your interest and attention, I can handle the fullness of your experience. I am offering friendship. Change happens at the speed of relationship. When talking about George Floyd, was someone highly impacted by that. A lot can come up that I might not have expected, and listening has been so helpful. So if you have a relative who is wrong about something, I can't help you to change their opinion. I'm sorry, I heard from a couple of you about that. It's really hard, but maybe I can help you to redirect your energy. If the relationship is worth it to you, invest in knowing what is in their heart, what's going on behind the scenes, what need is being met by having that opinion. If you're someone who wants to make the world a better place and you realize that you have prioritized being forthright, I have a suggestion for a change in mindset that might help. This comes from UU Reverend Elizabeth Nguyen. When you read about an injustice in the world, don't treat it as news. Treat it as family. So Laurel Hubbard is getting grief for competing as a transgender weightlifter. My friend Rachel is getting grief about that. Well, she's family. She needs a relationship, not analysis. When children's bodies are detected again and again, they are family. That's not just news, they are family. They need relationship, not analysis. And that relationship creates even more understanding. When you care, there is room for heart, room for relationship, and room for even more understanding. You can gain understanding by prioritizing relationship. To have an opinion that takes into account other perspectives, let go of having an opinion just for a little while. Focus on seeing their perspective. Make it a dance of shared living, not a debate to take space in. And when you are in analysis mode, seeking sources to learn from, and you come across someone's opinion, ask yourself, is this person in relationship with the people they are talking about? Did this social commentator form their opinion while sitting at home on the couch? Or do they actually know the people involved? So I'll go off script for a moment. If you saw Wab Kinew interject during a speech by Manitoba's new Indigenous minister, it wasn't clear to me that the Indigenous minister had spoken with families of residential school survivors. I advise him to make it more obvious next time. You can tell if people haven't been checking in with the people involved. So it is so easy to form an opinion based on a story you've been told. It is harder to find out the full story. The full story might not meet your expectations. So put down your opinion, put down the story as you know it, and meet people in contexts different from your own. Don't trust the headlines. Don't rely on spokespeople who may or may not represent voices other than their own. Get involved, show up. When something unjust is going on in the world, meet multiple people with lived experience of it. The injustice they experience will have something in common with any injustice you have experienced, but it will also be different in surprising ways. So add a new flavor to your life. See the world from another perspective. Choose relationship and discover a broader truth.